So I'm tired of only being offered a couple choices by modern multi-tool companies. A lot of times we either have to pick the 4-inch multi-tool frame, we have to pick the heavy-duty frame, or for instance, we have to pick a keychain frame. But why can't we have this middle ground, which is a lot more EDC friendly? So SOG PowerPoint has done a great job of filling that gap, and I really like this tool, but I still like a variety, so I decided to come up with my own version of what Leatherman actually used to offer. Leatherman used to offer the Leap, which they marketed to kids, unfortunately, and that did not go over very well. But this was a Leatherman Wave style EDC multi-tool around the 3.5-inch frame, much smaller than the Wave and very pocketable. So I came up with the idea when I saw the Perwin multi-tool, and I actually bought 2 of them. And I saw that they had a long frame, which is this side right here. And I have another side right here from the other multi-tool I bought. So I had a long frame and then I had a short frame, and this clip fit in that hole right there. So I thought, what if I got 2 of these, mashed these together, and I could come up with the multi-tool I have here today. So here you have a full set of pliers, you have replaceable wire cutters. I was able to go ahead and put a pocket clip onto this and take a look at these outside tools. I have a file, I have a knife. Now I had to shorten the knife due to the constraints because the knife was from the longer side. And then we have a saw, which I didn't have to mod at all. And then I did have to mod the scissors. These were those Dolphin safety style scissors. And so I had to mod them, and you can see where the metal marker mark still is, and I had to cut the tips off. Just be very careful when you are doing this because these heat up extremely quickly. So just keep that in mind. Now there is still a lot of work to be done, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And I also added a bit driver from off of the Ozark Trail because I'd found a really good deal. I think this was like $20 on eBay, and so I've been using one sort of for parts and for modding projects. And then I actually got a Leatherman freestyle clip off of Amazon. This is made by Donk Pocket Clips, and I was able to drill out and sort of tap screw holes, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So first of all, what you need to do this mod is to get the Perwin, or it does go by other names, but in the US, the Perwin on Amazon will be the easiest one to find. And you need to take apart the long frame. So you'll get 2 of these, and you'll take apart the long frame and then join the 2 small ones together on these pliers. So you'll leave a short one and then join the other one. And what you'll use to get these is a T8. So a T9 can tighten these up, but I think you need a T8 to actually fit into this notch. So it actually looks like the T9 is more the size that you need for this. So I would recommend getting one of these sets, and that would be easier. Now what I had to do is this has a lot of Loctite in it. So make sure that you use a heat gun, and I really need to back this up. Make sure you use a heat gun and you're able to, so let's see, what size is this actually? This is a T7, it looks like, maybe. 5, 6, 7, no, it is a T8. So I think my T8 was just damaged, and that's why I had some issues. So anyway, go ahead and get a heat gun. Make sure to heat up the threads because they have a ton of Loctite on it, and they are very hard to get off. Now, one of the odd things about this is it's actually a threaded, what do you call that, a pivot joint anyway, it has these on both sides. So Leatherman and Gerber are not like that, but this is actually just like a threaded tube, and then they put these on both ends, which is a little bit odd. Usually multi-tools have one end which is like welded in place or something, but not so on this one. So you go ahead and you've got this off, and then you can go ahead and knock this out with like a thin nail. But keep in mind, again, you are tapping against the end of this one right here, so be careful with that. And then you have one side that is flat and one side that is round. So when you go ahead and put this back together, one side will be round and one side will have this flat spot on it. And you can see right there. So I made the mistake of I was trying to force this out through this side, and it kept catching on that lip. So I was pounding and pounding and pounding, and thankfully this is a cheap multi-tool. It's $25 for the whole multi-tool on AliExpress. A little bit more expensive on Amazon depending on when you get it in the sales. But anyway, that was, I was really going to town, and I may have damaged it, but I had several extra to spare, so it wasn't a huge deal, but it definitely was a learning curve. So I got that out, and then you put it together. There are a couple washers, so make sure you remember where those washers are. And then you can go ahead and put these implements back in place. You have got a couple different thicknesses of washers. You've got a thin washer, and then you've got a thicker size washer. So keep that in mind as well. So anyway, a lot to remember, a lot to learn, but it was a fun mod. So finally, I was able to get them in place. I trimmed the ends of the longer ones as I mentioned. So just for instance, again, here is the knife. I was able to just use it on an angle grinder and trim that off. I actually used my Dremel to cut it off and then touch it up with the angle grind, or the bench grinder is what I mean. And then I was able to put these in place. Now, once you've got these pivots back together, keep in mind that you have taken the Loctite apart. So you will have issues. So for instance, this doesn't lock up anymore very well because you don't have Loctite. So I can tighten this, and let's use the correct one right here. So I can tighten this right here, and then it snaps in place, and we've got the spring. But as soon as I go like this, this turns and loosens it, and I no longer have that pressure. And so I need to take Loctite and take that to both sides and adjust this. So there definitely is some adjustment in place once you do that. So that wasn't too bad. I was very excited when that finally came to fruition, and I got that done. So then I moved on to the bit driver, and the bit driver was a little bit trickier. I actually tried 2 iterations. So this is from the cheaper Byberry version, and it's known by many different names: Mossy Oak, Metric, I guess it is. And this uses the longer bit. So this is longer than even this style bit. It takes a little bit longer bit, and I was able to fit this. So I cut this off, and I was able to fit this in place, but then only the long bit worked because you have this little lip at the end that caught it, but the other bits didn't work. I really didn't want to carry a bunch of long bits with me. So I decided to discard that idea. I JB welded this into place, and then I was able to get it out. And so I actually tore apart, as I mentioned before, the Ozark Multi-Force, and I chopped off at the very end where I could tell that the metal bit sits against, right there at the end where I didn't need that metal anymore. I was able to chop that off and then sit this right here so it's almost flush. Now there is a little bit when these pliers collapse this way, it does get caught up a little bit. So what I do is I actually collapse the pliers this way, and then they have no issue at all. But There is, again, when you mod, there are little things that need brushed up and ground down and so forth. And so I was able to seat this in here. JB welded into place. That's not the best way to do it, but I don't have access to a great torch or welding equipment at the moment. So I wanted to see if this would work. So this is sort of my temporary way to test it out. And then I want a pocket clip, because my big pet peeve with the Leatherman Leap is that it didn't come with a pocket clip. You can use something like this, but I really think these need their own pocket clip. They're very small, and so if a Leatherman Surge can have a pocket clip and a Leatherman Charge can, then definitely you need a pocket clip for a EDC tool like this. So again, I got the Donk pocket clip for the Leatherman Free series. It came with 2 little screws and a wrench as well. And this is their titanium leather, their pocket clip rather. And I used so I was able to use some drill bits and then also a diamond Dremel bit as well. And then I actually use, which I know you're not supposed to, I used the taps. And I used the end of the tap in a drill, which definitely do not do that, but I did it because I didn't have anything really else on hand. And this is fairly soft material, which isn't good overall, but it was good for this mod. And I was able to get through fairly quickly. And you can see there is a lot of room in between these handles, so you don't have to worry. The screw can even go through and it won't affect the operation of the saw. So I was able to do that, and I had this, I looked, and as far as I know, this was recommended as the correct size for the M2 by 0.4 for the Free Series clip. So I looked on different Reddit sites and so forth, but unfortunately the Donk pocket clip, at least, it starts to thread in, but it doesn't thread in all the way when you use this tap. So it seems like it needs the size just maybe 1 step up. So anyway, I had to go ahead and use another drill bit that was a little bit larger, and then I got the 1 screw in, but the other screw, the hole was too big. So the screw just ended up just sitting there, and I had to actually get a screw out of the Leatherman curl, its pocket clip, and with all the thread lock it had on it, it actually fit in place, and now this is very tight. So I don't have the answer. All that to say, I don't have the answer. I'm still searching for the best way to do this. I made it do with the faulty equipment I had, but I won't recommend replicating that. So in a future video, I'll try to tell you exactly what you need, because I want to do the same thing on my Gerber MP600 and put a clip on it as well. So those are the mods I've done to date. I have an idea what I'm going to do on this side, and I'll keep you updated, but I hope you enjoyed this video. And just know that almost anything is possible with a grinder and a Dremel and enough determination.